What is going on, beautiful people? I hope you are having a great day. Today we are going to talk about the pros and cons of living in Highlands Ranch, Colorado. And hey, if this is your first time to the channel and you are interested in learning a little bit more about Denver or some of the surrounding suburbs, much like Highlands Ranch, Colorado, like we're going to learn about today, then feel free to hit the subscribe button down below, tap the bell icon for notifications. This way you can be notified anytime I come out with a new video, and you can kind of stay on top of things and be the first to know about the market going on in Denver or surrounding areas. If you don't know already, my name is Michael and I get people reaching out quite often, moving to Denver, just needing a little bit of help. So if you're thinking about moving here in the next month, 2 months, year, whatever it may be, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to help and make that transition as smooth as possible and maybe answer any questions you might have. But with all that said, let's get right into the video. And for those of you who don't know where Highlands Ranch is at, it's actually kind of in the southwest part of the Denver area. It's not too far outside of the city, but it's also kind of its own little thing. It spans over about 40 square miles, so it's a pretty large area in comparison to some of the other suburbs around Denver. And it's got about 110,000 people that live there, and it's really nice community. It's all under one big HOA. It's kind of run by the HOA, but very nice community. And let's get right into the pros and cons of it. All right, the first thing we're going to talk about is just the outdoor recreation that's available in Highlands Ranch. It's it's a massive area, so they have dozens of parks to go to. They have about 2,500 acres of open space, and there's a rec center at actually each corner of Highlands Ranch. So wherever you're at, you can kind of go to that one, and they're all really nice facilities. So if you're in town, stop in and just take a look around. But just overall great amenities to have in Highlands Ranch, and it's available to anybody that's living in Highlands Ranch. The next thing we're going to talk about is just the proximity to the mountains. So you're pretty much right next to the mountains, right before you get into the mountains. So if you're someone who's going up to the mountains frequently, or you'd like to go frequently, and you're into hiking, skiing, all those summer activities, then you're not too far of a drive from those things. I'd say maybe it's a 15-minute drive outside of Highlands Ranch before you're actually in the mountains. But for the most part, it's not very far, especially if you compare it to some drives that you might have to make if you're living in some of the eastern suburbs of Denver. You're going to be right there, and it's going to make driving to the mountains a lot easier. Not only that, but living right next to the mountains has its perks because you actually have mountain views. Sometimes when you're kind of on the eastern side, neighborhoods tend to get built up around and you just don't get to see the mountains. Whereas in Highlands Ranch, a lot of places you still get to see the mountains because they're just right there. So you'd have to build up really high to kind of block that view. So that's just a nice perk of living in Highlands Ranch. You usually have a mountain view. If not, once you go outside and when you're on the road, you're gonna start seeing the mountains right away. So always nice to see the mountains when you're in Colorado. Another really nice thing about Highlands Ranch is it's just outside of Chatfield State Park. So it's just west of Highlands Ranch, but it's a great little state park. They have a massive reservoir there and so many activities you can take in. There's hiking, biking, horseback riding, there's boating, you can go fishing. I mean, you name it, you can do it there. It's an amazing place to kind of go take a day off and just hang out. State park passes here are not that expensive. So once you get there, you're good. Hang out the whole day. They also have a really nice off-leash dog area. So if you have a dog, you want to take them for a nice little walk, or let them get some energy out, it's a great place to do that. The last really nice thing I'll talk about Highlands Ranch is because I don't want to go on too long, and this kind of feeds into one of the cons later, but it's a really well-maintained community. It's really well built. So you're going to have everything you really need in Highlands Ranch. You're not really going to need to go outside for anything. Obviously if there's events going on outside, you're gonna need to leave for that. But for the most part, all your shopping, dining, all that stuff's already in Highlands Ranch. You're not gonna need to leave. I'll get into why that's necessarily might be considered a bad thing here in a little bit. But for the most part, you don't have to go very far. And it's nice if you're living in a place that has everything. You don't have to travel far, save a little money on gas. It's just nice to have all those things available. And if you need something really quickly, it's right there. And if you really need to get to Denver, you just hop on E470 over to I-25, and it's not that much of a drive. So if you do need to get into Denver, you're not that far away from it. So it's not gonna be that difficult to get where you need to go if you need to go there, just because the roads are pretty well built over there. And you just hop on, get to where you need to go, and you're good to go. All right, so let's get into some of the things that might not be as exciting if you're living there, and something that might put you off a little bit. Let's get into it. All right, the first thing that kind of stands out when you get there is this community was pretty much all built in 1980. If you look at the population, I mean, it exploded in the 90s and, you know, so on and so forth. But with that being said, pretty much all the homes built in Highlands Ranch are a little bit newer, but that does mean they're all going to be more cookie cutter style homes. So you're not going to find a whole lot of unique builds out there. They're all going to be very similar to each other, which some people might not necessarily think is a bad thing. You know, cookie cutter homes are nice because, you know, they appeal to a lot of people. But at the same time, if you're somebody who likes something a little bit more unique, and, you know, you don't want to have the same house that 6 other people on your street have, then maybe you might have to search a little bit longer in the Highlands Ranch to find something that kind of appeals to your taste. But for the most part, they're all very similar homes. You don't get too crazy out there for the most part. The next thing is the entire area is pretty much under the HOA of Highlands Ranch, and it's pretty much all run through that. It's not incorporated, so it's run a little bit differently than most people are used to. Now, some people might be okay with that, and some people have very strong feelings against HOAs. If that's something that concerns you, I highly recommend taking a look at it a little bit deeper. But for the most part, if you go through, you can just tell it's a very well-run community, and I wouldn't be too concerned about that specifically, but everyone has their own reservations when it comes to HOAs. So if that's something that concerns you, maybe look into it, but it definitely is something that puts some people off and kind of keeps people away from the area. And the last thing I will talk about is something that if you talk to somebody that has lived in Highlands Ranch, they know what I'm talking about. But it's called the Highlands Ranch bubble. And kind of going back to my point earlier of it has everything there. A lot of people, because, you know, they move there and they have everything, they never tend to leave, and other people kind of feel the same way. So everyone feels like they're kind of enclosed in this little spot in Highlands Ranch, and not a whole lot of people come to Highlands Ranch for anything specific, and not a whole lot of people leave. So it's kind of its own little bubble that seems to be encased. And I wouldn't necessarily say that's a con, but that's something to think about when you're there, just because you're really in your own spot. You're really not leaving often, especially a lot of people get jobs locally there, and especially people that work from home, they're never leaving. So you feel almost like you might be trapped. Again, some people might like that, some people maybe not so much, but it's just a feeling that a lot of people when they move to Highlands Ranch get. One last con I'll talk about is cost of living. Now, depending on where you're at in Highlands Ranch, it can vary quite a bit, but the median single family home over there is about $725,000. Now, you could probably find some down in the 600s, like, you know, low 600s, maybe even high 500s, but for the most part, housing is a little bit more expensive over there, and, you know, a little bit lower taxes, and everything's run by the HOA, so it's just a little bit different than some of your other suburbs in Colorado. But finding affordable housing might be a little bit more difficult in that area just because of that. So with all that being said, I mean, Highlands Ranch has plenty of positives, plenty of negatives, and, you know, you kind of just have to weigh them and see what's best for you. I'd say some of the negatives here are very niche specific, so some people may really be against certain things and just not be attracted to Highlands Ranch at all, and at the same time, they might be like, oh, those are, you know, nothing, whatever. It might be a perfect place for you, especially if you love the mountains. You're kind of right there, so not a bad place, but you got to take everything into account. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something, maybe learned a little bit more about Highlands Ranch and help make a decision to move there or whatnot. Oh, and don't forget, if you are planning to move here or just thinking about it, feel free to reach out. My contact information is below. You can shoot me an email, text, call, whatever's best for you. But until next time, I'll see you guys later.